right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to those 3, 2. I don't know what we are anymore.
Those three geeks.
Yeah,
He's
why not?
Alex. I'm Joe. And of course, we've got the esteemed Matthew Klein, who is our wrestling native
Oh,
guru. Except for last
so
week, and
excited
we're
to
going to
be
get into
here.
that.
Yeah.
So excited to be here. I want you to know this is the only place where I really generate any self-esteem. So thank you so
awesome.
much.
Well,
I'm
then
so happy to be here
we are
with you.
more than happy to continue to boost that whenever you want to come back. It
Yeah.
is, as you know, a standing invitation.
Big time. It doesn't
And
have to
as
just
you
be
know,
wrestling, but it
I am
does
the
help.
neighbor that won't leave.
Yeah, but unlike those
Oh,
neighbors,
thank
we
you.
actually like you.
Yeah, it's like a
I
sitcom. You
like
just
you
kind
guys.
of you folded into our as Alex would say, ecosystem. And it makes the show
Well,
so
let's
much
be.
better.
I came to accept a very long time ago that if I ever was like the movie of my life, I'm not the main character. I am absolutely like the funny, quirky Jewish side character in the film.
Tertiary
So yes,
character.
I would absolutely be. Yeah, I am the neighbor. Like that is my energy that I give, and I accept that, and that's who I am. And I get good lines, and then I don't overstay my welcome, and
Matthew,
that's sort of my role in life.
I think you're on to something. We could create a Netflix series called The Neighbor, and it's about a guy who's the main character, who's not the main character. I think that would work.
And listen, because we have put it on the podcast now, that is a legally binding trademark. So
Exactly.
congratulations, everybody. Yep.
I don't even know if that's how that
The
works, but I'm here
tagline will
for
just
it.
be "Won't you be?"
Oh,
Oh, that's great.
I love that.
Well,
All right. Well, it is a
I hope
Saturday,
you
and we
both
are on
had
a
a
tight
good
schedule.
American. I know. I did want to say happy Thanksgiving belatedly to you both. I hope you both had a very wonderful
I did. Oh my
Thanksgiving.
god.
Joe, it sounds like you had a hellish Black Friday, but I
I
hope you
woke
were
up at
filled
5:10 and
with
I got
delicious
done at
meats.
5:30. At
Oof,
5:30, 12 hours
oof.
later.
Why?
It was a long, long, long day. 3 hours
Jeez.
of it was the phone. I saved that
Right.
for
Sure.
last because I figured that would be not so bad. But I got a Christmas tree, I got a ring light, I got some action figures, and then I went with
Of
my
course.
friends, and I just, dude, yeah. So I ended up coming across, and we only have 5 matches, so we can still do this. Oh yeah, by the way, folks, we're doing Survivor Series predictions today, which will be Survivor Series results because we're gonna end up having this air after the pay-per-view tonight from Chicago, Illinois. I'll get to that. Thoughts on that? But yeah, no, I ended up finding a flocked um, uh, Masters of the Universe Origins Mossman, which is
Ooh.
like the exclusive for Origins at Walmart. And I went to multiple Walmarts, but I found him and I got him and super stoked. I mean, I'm just having a killer luck out finding toys and action figures, collectibles, whatnot at Walmart lately. Like I found the Supreme CM Punk, which is extremely rare. I found that last week behind the counter. Like I was paying for my stuff to get out, and the lady was just like, she moved her arm, and it was like right under there. And I was like, "Can I grab that?" And she's like, "Yeah, some guy dropped it off. I don't know if he'll be back." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. Can I grab that?"
Yeah.
So
It doesn't matter.
yeah, yeah. I told her, I'm like, "I don't care how I pay for this. What is the quickest way to pay for this so I can get out of here?" Because it's such a hard figure to
I just
find.
imagine Joe like in the movie version of this Discovery, like she moves her arm and the first chords of Cult of Personality just go
Yeah, I
off.
said.
And as you see the CM Punk figure, yep, exactly. And it's just like da 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 da, and you're like, what? Da 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 da. It's
Exactly.
like there it is. That's the movie version of you making that discovery.
But
So,
folks,
and it's on The Neighbor, season 1, episode 2.
exactly. But folks, we're all jovial today, joking and whatnot, because it's great to be able to hear each other in complete crystal clarity. I did get a new phone. I succumbed to the peer pressure. I am now one of the hive. I have an iPhone.
Welcome
I
to
got
one
yeah,
of us. One
one
of
of
us.
us.
One of us.
I got the iPhone 15, but that's neither here nor there. We did a quick talk off mic about our guesses our educated guesses for AEW Full Gear last week, and supposedly there's some praise in order because I only got one wrong.
You did. So and I'm actually using you as what the results were. So we had gone through. We all called Eddie Kingston to win, apart from the random coin, which is thankfully terrible this time.
Yes.
Matthew started to go wrong when he called the Guns to go over MJF and Joe and Samoa Joe.
Silly me. Silly me. I just looked for logical booking and I was incorrect.
No, that was your problem.
Guys.
Yeah, now I think that had we thought of a potential injury angle, then we could have then yours would have made, or anyway, what it doesn't matter.
So basically, I got the patriarchy wrong.
You got the patriarchy wrong, yeah.
You got the patriarchy wrong, yeah.
So I went after getting MJF and Joe. The order that we did them in, I got Buddy Matthews wrong. Shida, I assumed Shida was going to go over Tony Storm.
Tony was going to get it.
And I remember saying that I'm going with Mox, and then you convinced me that Orange Cassidy was gonna do it, and he did. And as I initially went with Mox, I'm still going to stick with that.
Yeah.
And was wrong. And then Hangman.
The one thing I was right about.
So what? No, just.
I said it was the one thing I was right about.
Oh, was
Hangman. Cassidy
you also got Julia Hart, Starks, and Big Bill. We all called that one, and then MJF going over at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, it was very from what I've read and what I've seen, very underwhelming pay-per-view. I am very glad I didn't shell out the $60 for this one.
I disagree with that.
So Alex, here's my question to you, Alex. Because on paper, the main event angle sounded like a mess. I mean, like WCW late 1999 WCW overbooked slogging of a mess.
Exactly.
It was so complicated to read, and even just looking at the clips online, it was so overbooked.
So
what I could
at
see.
the end of
how did it actually come off?
It was interesting. So from a story perspective of the pay-per-view, it actually flowed really well.
Okay.
From an AEW fan who wanted to see MJF at 100% or maybe 80% because he was in the match earlier.
Yeah.
Whatever. Go after Switchblade Jay White. I really wasn't a fan of the choice to book MJF coming in with a quad injury.
Yeah, it's hokey.
Right now, that said,
it just hurts. It also hurts Jay White.
Big time.
Jay White is a guy that can't beat MJF at 80%. Right?
I don't know if it does, because Jay White absolutely battered MJF through the entire thing.
Jay White is pissed at AEW right now.
That's the rumor and innuendo, folks. That's not Jay White has not come out and said, "I hate my booking." It's some Melter. It's some Melter innuendo.
Honestly, I think that Jay White came out of that looking. For me, he didn't look any weaker than when he went in.
Okay.
And a lot of that, I think,
again, on paper, it just sounded like a ridiculous amount of booking. I'm very curious how it actually came off.
I was talking to my friend about that when I saw him in the office, and I said my issue with the way MJF was presented in the match, but ultimately I enjoyed the overarching story that they've been telling with MJF and Adam Cole. At a certain point, Adam Cole was going to take on Jay White, and he had one leg. And honestly, of all of it,
which again makes no sense on paper.
So my biggest issue with that angle was that when MJF stole the ambulance, came back, and was hobbling down, there were people trying to stop him, but there was no one trying to stop Adam Cole from going through. I was like,
Absolutely.
it's
Makes
just
no
That
sense.
that
That
yeah.
makes
seems
no
a bit
sense.
odd. Now I don't know if it's because so my mum is in two boots like Adam Cole is in.
hmm
Ooh, sorry to hear that.
Sorry to hear that too.
She's there. She's fine. She's fine. She's been walking around on two fractured legs for months. So that finally,
Wow.
yeah. Once they realized that they were fractured, they acted pretty quickly. But she's stubborn apparently and can walk on broken legs. Anyway, so with that being said, like I know that based on her, when you're in a boot like that, you're actually, as long as if that match was going to go ahead, and I wouldn't have been opposed to it, like assuming MJF was significantly put out, I wouldn't have been opposed to them calling an audible or whatever, and Jay White going over Adam Cole, or Adam Cole using his leg to take out Jay White, because I know that those boots, yes, he's on a leg that's clearly not even close to functional, but the boots are very stable and actually protect you quite a lot. However, MJF coming back and hobbling and selling it on one leg,
But
he was
after he
very,
steals an ambulance,
yeah,
after stealing an ambulance,
it's
let's be
there's a lot
very
of
clear.
Yeah, I know.
points
It's
in
Stone
that
Cold Steve Austin-esque.
is what it was. Now
Well,
there's a lot of
but
points
he's not
in
Stone
that.
Cold Steve Austin. That's not his
Yeah.
character.
So that's just like
He's
I'm
the salt of the
surprised
earth.
that
He's not the everyman.
no, he's
Right,
not.
exactly.
So I'm at the end of the day, it left me with more questions than
Yeah, and that's
right. Like now that said, I don't think Jay White came out of it looking poorly. I think by the end of the match, because MJF had actually legitimately injured himself,
Yep.
it which I don't know if it
They
came from
worked
him.
themselves into a shoot.
Yeah, like
I
I
know.
don't know if he was
injury.
injured because he jumped off the he did an elbow drop to Jay White when he was supposed to go through a table, but the table broke as he went on. He's like, well, I'm going to do it anyway. Like I don't know if he popped his hip out then, or if it was when he did the cutter to
I
the
think it was the
outside.
cutter.
And oh my, I mean
People
that.
are saying it's the cutter, but again, that's the rumor.
Yeah, but that cutter looks so good. Like it
But
was phenomenal. And so you see a lot of MJF pushing himself more than you would expect. Like I actually don't remember how he ended up winning. I wasn't upset with it. Like it was well done.
Well,
I don't know.
And
I'm glad I
too,
didn't
like
watch
Jay
it.
White is there serving. Jay White is there serving the MJF Cole story, and you know it's just it wasn't his night. It wasn't his night to shine. He's not the focal point,
but
and that's okay. You can't always be. Sometimes you are the tertiary character in the bigger story.
Sometimes you're the neighbor,
and that was Jay White.
And I think
Jay White was the neighbor in the sitcom.
We're gonna push this. We're gonna push this neighbor thing.
So I think that as a worker, Jay White came out of that looking so good because he carried MJF since he popped his hip out. He like I didn't realize how injured MJF was until after the fact.
We're gonna call this WCW-esque though. And we're gonna call this WCW like New Blood era-esque.
I wouldn't go that far. It was definitely choices made, but at the end of the day, it was a story about a baby face overcoming some bad injury,
ridiculously comical,
a kayfabe bad injury after already wrestling earlier in the night. His best friend actually standing, trying to be there for him as well. Like all of those elements to it do tie to the further story.
Please watch Survivor Series.
Oh, I will have Survivor Series. Yeah.
How booking should be.
So my point.
Well, we should get into it now.
Yeah, let's get into it now because you have finite time, Matthew, and also Alex. You have thoughts on Raw. I will take the praise that I got one wrong from the coin. Yeah, I went with logic, and that was my problem. I should have just went with fandom, and Edge and everyone would have won, but that's okay.
No, but that's exactly it. I need to look at AEW shows not with booking logic so much as I need to look at it as what would an AEW fan want out of the show?
That's how we got to look at it.
Not what would my version of storytelling be.
Exactly.
So correct. I have to change my thinking when I'm looking at AEW shows, which is
Alex,
okay.
You watched Raw.
I think like a WWE fan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Matthew.
So I did watch Raw.
Okay, tell us.
I was saying to Matthew earlier before you joined, it left me feeling conflicted because I really enjoyed the additional backstage segments that you got.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take a whole lot of time to get like
Nope.
the Judgment Day Clubhouse. However, I felt like they did almost like an entire segment of backstage vignettes really close together. I'm like, as someone who doesn't really know any of the characters other than what you see on like YouTube or pay-per-view bits and pieces here and there, I'm like, I don't care about any of this. Yes, I care about the Judgment Day and Drew McIntyre. But
Yeah.
above and beyond that, like I don't know who Vicky Stark is. And when I looked her up, she was about 20 years younger than I thought she was going to be.
Oh, Zoe Stark.
Zoe Stark, yeah.
She's brutal.
But I mean, that said, like some of the acting in those segments wasn't great. And I don't know if it's because I'm used to AEW or a lot of the storytelling happens in the ring or it's the commentators that add to it a lot more. Wade Barrett was fantastic when I was listening to him.
He's so good.
Yeah, like he was worth, like a lot of the matches just didn't do it for me.
Okay.
But again, that's their AEW shows where some of the matches
because they're not 19,000 false finishes.
Yeah. False finishes.
I was also saying, Joe, that like generally the go home shows for pay-per-views often are kind of wrestling light anyway because they don't want people getting hurt before the show. So they really push the angle versus pushing a lot of like in-ring stuff. So they'll give you the main event and one or two, matches otherwise. But otherwise it is all story driven to kind of save people up so nobody gets hurt last minute, as can happen. So
but what did you think, Alex, of authority figures actually asserting themselves and actually like trying to hold the power, like with Adam Pearce? I think him and Nick Aldis are doing a fantastic job on their respective shows right now.
Yeah, I've always thought that, like, because you don't have a GM of Dynamite,
no,
you don't, right? Like you don't have an equivalent character on the other show on AEW. So it was interesting. I really hope that AEW, if they're gonna go that route, it's someone like, maybe if they go that route in a few years, it's someone that Chris Jericho does or someone like that. Like, I don't think it needs to be Tony Khan.
It doesn't need to be Tony Khan. It could be like an Arn Anderson or
exactly.
like something like that. Yeah.
If that's the route they go with, it needs to be someone who is literally like just playing the role.
Yeah.
Like
Arn with the Glock.
Yeah. Right. Like it can't be someone who's actually doing it. But I mean, it's an interesting way to go about it. I think AEW is definitely geared more toward a wrestling fan that understands that
it's geared more towards I wouldn't say a smart crowd because you can't guess the booking. I'd say it's geared more towards a wrestling visionary crowd. Like you want to just be there and see spectacle. That's what AEW is.
Yeah,
it's like in-ring heavy action.
It is, and it's definitely like I like it, and I think that's what's the brilliant thing about having both companies is that they
I like how it has both flavors.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
right. There's two different flavors for people. So someone like me who currently isn't a huge fan of the WWE flavor
yet,
but it was AEW that got me back into it because it reminded me so much of when I was into wrestling 20 years ago, or more. That it's got that same kind of sense to it. Now, obviously, it helps that a lot of like you got Jericho, Christian, JR is with
people that you're familiar with.
Exactly. So that's going to help. And right. So, oddly enough, it was CM Punk that got me into AEW, and I never actually saw him in WWE
because he's amazing, and you might see him tonight. You might just see him tonight.
Speaking of what's happening tonight, I actually have no idea of the cards other than the War Games.
All right, I know the card off my hand.
Okay, so do you know the updated card though, Joe? After last night's SmackDown,
I fell asleep in the last 15 minutes. They added a match.
No, they didn't add the match. They just changed the match. So Carlito was out.
Yeah. Okay,
and
I saw
they've
that. Yeah,
replaced
it's
him with Dragon Lee.
Dragon Lee and
Yep, and
yeah.
Santos
Okay,
Escobar.
all right, I can rock with this. Let's go. So we're gonna do our predictions.
Yeah.
Um, so Alex, since this is your WWE one, we're gonna go with you first on all the predictions. If
Sure.
Matthew's okay with that.
Also, do you have the coin? Do you have the
I
coin?
I will be
Alex?
there will be the yeah, there's a loony next to me. There I
There's
will
a
be the
loony.
human.
All right.
Yeah, I will be the human coin
That's
and
not a
also
nice
the
thing to
physical.
call your wife.
Oh no, she's downstairs.
All right. So we'll go with the first match, which is undoubtedly probably in my mind going to be Carlito and Dragon Lee.
Isn't
Really?
it
You don't
Dragon
think
Lee?
they'll start it off with the women's war games?
You think they'll do the bookends?
They did it last year.
That's true. All right. So let's go
feel
off
like
with the women's war
I
games.
feel like you've almost got to do a
Yeah,
bookend.
you're right. You're right. All right. So
You
we're
got
gonna
to
do the
give them
women's-
as much time apart on the
Yeah.
card.
Yeah, I agree. You're right. So we'll do the women's war games. So basically it is damage control, which consists of Bailey, Io Sky, who is the WWE Women's Champion, Dakota Kai, um,
Nope, she's not in it.
Pirate Princess Kairi Sane, um, and
It's 4-on-4,
Asuka.
isn't it, for the women's?
4-on-4 for the women. So Dakota Kai is
Yes.
kind of there in just like support.
So
So
what are the stipulations on interference?
there is no interference.
Oh,
So war games.
there is no.
Because
Yeah, have you seen a war
was-
games match?
I
Alex?
have seen one.
Are you
last
sure?
year.
Because
Okay.
it's amazing.
Yeah, it was the Bloodline versus.
Yeah. That was a great one.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Okay.
So
Okay.
I think I did see that last year. The reason I ask about interference is because whenever you have like that kind of thing, like effectively a 5-on-4, I would go with damage control. But if they're actually strict on the lack of interference, I would almost.
Oh yeah. No, if you mean if like Dakota Kai is going to be a factor, probably not, unless there's like some
In
sneaky
theory, the cages are supposed to keep the person
exactly.
outside, Alex.
Exactly.
But of course, this is gang warfare. So will
it's wrestling.
Dakota?
There's
Dakota could take
there's
somebody
also
out of the
the
crutch
moment
on their way to
between
the
getting.
ring.
Yeah, right. Like, so before you even get to the ring, can she become a factor?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got damage control, and then you've got the mega powers collide for the women. You've got
Isn't that like Becky Lynch?
you got
Charlotte
Becky Lynch,
Flair,
Charlotte,
Bianca
Bianca, and Jesus, why am I drawing the blank on the fourth?
And plucky Shotzi. Plucky
Shotzi. So yeah, I have thoughts
Trying
on this one.
to get to that next level is Shotzi, and
I have thoughts
want
on
good
this
things for her.
I want to go based on the Raw that I saw. I feel like I'd be more inclined to go with the Charlotte Flair's team.
Okay, why so?
Honestly, because I feel like they're the underdogs because they don't work together, yet they seem to be very capable with how it went from 3-on-5 to 4-on-5, and based on what I saw at the Raw, they had Becky Lynch's back almost immediately. So what they might lack from a cohesive teamwork, they're going to make up for in just sheer rage and anger.
Yeah.
And
all right.
I also don't want to.
Alex. But Alex,
Matthew,
you did not see SmackDown last night.
Exactly.
And last night, so Charlotte and Becky have a very public They had a very public falling out in real life.
Yeah.
And last night they played it up and they cost each other a big tag team main event against Asuka and Bailey. So they are very much playing on their storied past of having been as close as sisters and then hating each other's guts.
Okay.
And all the mishmash that has happened. So they look very much not united going into War Games tonight.
The team I'm going to go with for the win.
There you go. All right, so you're picking the baby faces.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. I will
Joe,
pick
where are you on it?
Damage control. And I'm going from a different angle because remember, it's not elimination. It's one fall. And it depends on obviously the order of the people going in. But after last night's SmackDown, what I saw up until the main event, Shotzi's two too over the top wild out there for me right now for her not to be a factor in the end. I really feel like you're going to get the swerve with Shotzi helping Damage Control.
Ooh, interesting. I am also going to go with Damage Control.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a few things. I think you're going to see the beginning of the build for Bianca versus Charlotte at WrestleMania next year,
Yeah.
because I think that's where they're going with it. I do, however, think you are also going to see more divisions building in Damage Control with Bayley
Mhm.
being on the outs. And so this has been one of the big stories, Alex, is Kairi Sane was taken out by Bayley when she left 3 years ago. That was the storyline that they did for it. And so there's very much a Bayley created Damage Control, but now that Bayley is sort of very uncomfortable because you have a very tight group of women and then she's kind of the outsider in her own group.
Yeah.
And
Correct.
it's one of those things like she knows it's coming, that they're going to turn on her, but she's trying everything to get in their good graces because she has such a horrible past as the villain with all these women now except Io. So it's a really interesting. So I think what's cool about this match and what should be the case with a multi-person match like this is you're going to have 3 or 4 or 5 storylines that going into this
Mhm.
that are going to be furthered coming out of this match.
Yeah.
Which
This
is
one's going to branch
exactly
into
what
a
you
lot of
want.
storylines.
It's going to branch into a ton as we get into Royal Rumble and Mania season.
Yeah.
I
Agreed.
also think you're going to see some crazy shit with Becky and Charlotte. I think we're going to,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of stories. I agree. I think Shotzi's not in there by accident. Her
No.
and Bayley have had this, is this Bayley's way of like getting Shotzi to come over to her side
That's what I
as
think.
an ally in Damage Control? Could happen.
I think it's if you can't beat them, join them type of thing, and it's like Shotzi is the afterthought on the team of powerhouses. She's the plucky,
And
newcomer, and I think she's gonna resent that and be like, "Who the hell are you guys not to have me factor into this? Like I'm just an afterthought type of deal." And honestly, I think the way her her new gimmick and her appearance is, I think it lends itself a little bit more to a Damage Control type of situation, where maybe even Bayley and
I,
her branch off from Damage Control. You don't know.
I also now I will say there is a path where the baby faces win this, and Alex is 100% right. And I
Yeah.
do think if the baby faces win, Bayley takes the fall, and that leads to her being
Mm,
even more
okay.
ostracized within the group. So
Yep.
I can see that happening, but I feel like it's too soon in the storyline. I feel like that more of that's going to be coming as we get into Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
Um, but that's just me. So, but could it happen? Sure. Again, just like last week with AEW, I see multiple ways the story can tell itself, and they're all right. For me right
Yeah.
now, I just feel like because this new Damage Control is so new, it's only a few weeks old,
Yep.
that they don't want to give a big loss yet.
I don't think so. And I
Um,
think, yeah, the baby faces, they can take the loss, all of them. They're all mega.
yes, I
And
agree.
there's
I
more
agree.
storytelling to come out of there. Somehow you're going to get Becky and Charlotte again at some point, maybe Rumble.
Well, I think you
And
build that in the Rumble, right? It's like Becky and
yeah.
Charlotte are going to go at each other in the Rumble, Bianca and Charlotte in the Rumble.
So then you get Becky, Charlotte,
You
Bianca
know,
at Mania.
you could. I think that they're building though Becky versus Rhea for Mania. That seems to be the long term.
Oh
But then
yeah,
you
and
got
we can
Jade
get
Cargill coming, right? So you
yeah,
might have
yeah,
Becky versus Rhea at Rumble.
yeah. You're right.
Because they're already talking about Becky versus Rhea. Like Becky's
Yeah.
already trying to get that title shot in the number one
On
contenders battle royal last week.
on
So
that
it's there.
subject, real quick, Matthew. On that sidebar,
Yeah.
has Jade had a match at all yet? Even a squash?
Of course not. Why would you have Jade in a
Yeah.
match yet
So
unless it's Royal Rumble or Mania?
right.
Like you don't debut Jade on Raw. You don't debut
No, on
Jade on
NXT.
anything other.
Hmm.
No, you give her a giant platform because you are building her up as a major freaking star.
Yeah.
So there's no reason, like people who are like, oh, what are they doing with Jade? I'm like, folks, look at the calendar. We all knew Jade was not going to have a match until Royal Rumble.
Correct.
Like, we all knew when they started this that they are making you wait for Jade's big debut, and they're going to give her a massive stage to do it on, and why not in front of 40,000 people in Tampa? Like, stop your whining.
Plus, it also gives them a
patience.
chance to get her into the WWE style of things, right? Like, because if she's been used to squash matches,
she's training at the PC.
Yep, exactly.
You know, like,
She
look,
definitely needs the training.
she's getting her skills sharpened so that she can be on this level. In a ring with 29 other women. So,
all right,
like,
so
give her time. It's coming.
All right. So Alex says the faces. You and I are both with damage control. What say the coin?
The coin agreed with me, but I don't.
Oh,
all right,
that's
2-2.
I like it. All right, next will be Carlito not Carlito. It will be Santos Escobar versus Dragon Lee.
I'm going with Dragon Lee just because I like the name Dragon Lee.
Dragon Lee's pretty amazing, by the way. Boy, this is a nothing for me. I don't really care. I feel like you need Santos to win it. If you're gonna build him as anything,
I'm gonna go with Santos. Santos. Yeah.
Same.
Same. I think it's an interesting swerve. I think that the fact they're putting Dragon Lee in there instead of Carlito gave me pause before picking Santos. But I think Santos is going to launch his own faction tonight, offshoot of the LWO. You're going to get Legado del Fantasma in there for real, but you're going to have like Garza and Korea coming back up from NXT, and then you're going to have these two factions warring with each other going into Mania season. I think that's where they're going with it, and Dragon Lee can take the loss if it is a crooked one. If he loses the number game, so to speak.
Talk about he's a plucky babyface. He can take the loss. Not a big deal.
He is, and his matches with Cedric Alexander and Cameron, like, he's been on a streak of like really great. And Alex, if there's a guy in WWE that I think fits more the AEW style you're used to, Dragon Lee would be the guy for you to be watching right now. They are starting to build him up as like the next Rey Mysterio.
Exactly, the closest thing I've seen to a Rey Mysterio in years. So I
mean, it didn't work with Sin Cara all those years ago, so I hope this works.
No. Well, that trampoline. But okay. Yeah. So
coin agrees with you.
The coin agrees with me. And
the coin agrees with us? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
you
cool.
say Dragon Lee just because the name's cool. And you're right, the name is very cool.
That's why I go.
So next would be Rhea versus Nia. I'm sorry, it would be Rhea versus Zoe. Jesus. Okay. Rhea versus Zoe. I mean, come on. I honestly, guys.
It's Rhea.
I wasn't even going to. I know I'm supposed to be going first, but also thinking Rhea. The coin says.
I don't even know why this was even a thought, but give Zoe some shine, I guess. Whatever.
But that's it. You're going to give Zoe some shine on a big stage, and Rhea will continue building her dominance. I think Rhea's going to come more involved in later in the evening with Judgment Day and the War Games.
Same.
But, again, Zoe is the tertiary character. Zoe is the neighbor. For the larger
She's not even the neighbor. She's the neighbor's neighbor.
There you go. She's the neighbor's neighbor.
Yeah.
She's like seventh on the billing sheet.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
All right. What's the coin say?
Zoe. Funny enough. I mean, it's a random coin flip, right? Like, actually, no, I'll ask this question as we get to it. What's the next match?
Okay, the next match, I am very, 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 very stoked for. It's not the main event, but it's semi-main, I think. Is Gunther versus The Miz. I'm gonna
say Gunther. I think it's going to be a very interesting match.
Oh, I do too. And logic says to me, Gunther also. There is a slight hesitation that I want to choose The Miz out of everybody that he's faced.
I think we're getting to the point now where anyone Gunther faces is
Mm-hmm.
going to legitimately have a chance now that he's
Yeah.
actually broken the record now, and
Yeah.
Mania's coming. Now it's
Yeah.
going to get to the point where, okay, Gunther might actually lose.
Challenge for a higher title.
And if
Yeah.
he loses here and wins the Rumble,
Yeah.
then I can see him challenging for whomever the world heavyweight
But here's the deal.
is at the time.
I'm going to go with Gunther in my heart because, one, the guy is the future in the WWE as far as I'm concerned. He is the all. He has everything. And also, I think he was the highlight of Raw with The Miz in that promo. I think that promo was stellar between the both of them. The little Mike, you're a weirdo. Like, oh my God, it was so good. Gunther hasn't had a promo against him like that shined him and made him just seem like an all-encompassing wrestler in a long, long time. This has made me so excited. Like, on paper, I'm always excited to see Gunther because the guy puts on a hell of a show. I have been since his days with, Ilya Dragunov, which are some of my favorite matches ever. But I do think this, with the Miz's backstory of essentially being the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time because he's won it the most.
So here's a question for you: is he actually the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, or
Gunther
is he?
So
No,
he's won it. I think it's 8 times.
Eight
so
times.
he's won it 8 times.
Second
He's
to
tied with
Chris
Jericho.
Jericho's
Lost it.
9
He's
reigns.
lost it 8 times, whereas Gunther's
Well,
had it.
again, now
Right?
is Ric Flair the greatest of all time?
Right,
Because he's a
16
16-time world
losing it.
champion
Yeah,
and lost
exactly.
it 16 times.
John
So
Cena,
I mean,
same
you
thing.
get into all that, Alex.
Yeah, you get into that, but no,
Yeah, John
I would
Cena, is he
say
the greatest of all time? He's lost it 16 times.
Right.
Like, it's
That's just it. Like to me, all that shows is that there was someone out there better than you 16 times in your career.
Get that thought process out.
No, but
Listen, Alex,
you
I'm
picked
just
yourself
saying,
back
if we
up
were living
16
during the
times.
Attitude Era, Gunther would have lost and won it 10 times by now.
Oh,
Exactly.
exactly. Like I think when they say, "Oh, you've had it," like with Roman Reigns' 4 million year reign,
Yeah.
it's a different era,
Yeah.
and it's
I
like
will say this.
Roman's
I will
never
say
gonna get a
this.
16
The
time.
legitimacy the
Say it again?
legitimacy for The Miz being called the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, I don't actually think it's the number of reigns. I think it's the fact he has held the title nearly 500 days across
Yeah, and
all
what
of
he's
his
done
reigns,
with it when he
right?
held the title.
And he absolutely helped elevate the title at various points when
Yeah.
he was champion. So
Daniel
like
Bryan and him,
I
amazing.
think there is some there is some legitimacy to calling him one of the greatest Intercontinental Champions of all time.
My point was
if it was like a
basically
Mick Foley situation where he was carrying it 8 days at a time and it's
exactly.
it's 8 reigns,
Literally
but it's 40
8 days
days,
at a
then
time.
yes, I agree.
Yeah, literally 8 days at a time. Mick Foley, because I've been watching all the Attitude Era stuff lately, and it's like he didn't have a reign more than a week most of the times. And same with The Rock.
He was
though,
a transition
back then.
champion.
The Rock only had reigns for like
Rock
3
didn't
weeks
have a
too.
very long reign.
It was insane. But
So
anyways, Gunther is
where
going
are
to
you
take
on this, Joe? Where do you go?
Gunther's taking this because I think we have a
Yeah.
possibility of doing something very interesting with the Intercontinental title. As long as they don't think that what Samoa Joe did on AEW is good booking, I will lose my mind if Gunther is like, oh, that's it. I've beaten everyone. I'm beyond this title. You're not going to get that with Gunther. What I think you're going to get is Gunther going to challenge, like Alex said. Cody can get back to Roman without the Rumble. I think there's story shenanigans you can pull to get Cody back to Roman. What I think you'll get, because also I don't think anyone wants to see the telegraph of Cody winning it twice. What I think you can get is Gunther winning the Royal Rumble and challenging for the world title whilst holding the IC title and having the first one since Warrior hold them both.
I think that is a story that could absolutely be told. I agree. I'm going to go with Gunther on this one. I think, though, that they've done a great job to all of our points of building The Miz up as a real challenger.
Yes,
I think that this is a natural story. I think it's a natural story, though, where Gunther is going and beating all these, the greatest former Intercontinental champion they have on the roster. I think that's all part of building Gunther's legacy as the unstoppable and the greatest champion of all time
for sure.
that gold. So I think that's all part, again, like Miz is the side character in Gunther's story, right? He is serving Gunther's overall story.
Giving him a true foil. Like there is at least a spark of doubt this time. Like with Chad Gable, other than the performance, I never thought that there was a spark of doubt that Chad Gable was going to dethrone Gunther. But they made you believe. They made you believe. And this is another case of they make you believe again, but they're making you believe with somebody on a much higher level. So it's still a possibility.
My theory with Gunther's, it's still a possibility. I do think though that they are getting ready to spin Ludwig Kaiser off of Imperium.
Yes.
And I think there's a very real possibility. There's a very real possibility that Gunther ends up losing it to Ludwig. Like that could happen, folks.
Or he could lose to Dragunov on the main roster.
He could lose to Dragunov on the main roster. He could lose to Ludwig. I do think there is a path for Miz to be the person that dethrones Gunther if they wanted to go that way.
Happen today, though.
I just don't think it happens, though.
No,
I'm very excited to see. Let's be very clear. The Intercontinental title picture will be a major focal point in Mania season.
Yes.
And it's going to be fantastic.
Yes, and it needs to be. It needs to be. All right. So now, main event time for all the marbles, as they say. This match has me so stoked. I have not been. So I have a fact for me.
Before we go in this, I actually have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Sir.
Damian Priest is Mr. Money in the Bank.
Yes, and he can still challenge it.
He can still challenge at any time.
Technically, yes.
At any time. He could challenge during the match.
Okay, that was what my question was going to be, because I feel like Damian Priest
while Seth is down.
Yeah, like he does he have to have the briefcase with him, or is it like an unspoken contract where he
have to have the briefcase? You have to have the briefcase. You have to hand in the briefcase to the referee.
So if it's outside the cage,
tell the referee you are cashing in.
Right. So if it's outside the cage, you can't do it. So I think that's and great logic, Alex. See, this is the stuff wrestling fans don't pay attention to. I think that is what they will get around tonight, because everyone's going to be like, well, can't he just beat Seth in the middle of the ring? Yeah, you can. But the cage will have the briefcase on the outside.
So he's got to actively give the briefcase.
So we could get an end of the match, which is what Alex.
You have to give the briefcase to the referee.
You pick yours first, Alex.
So
who do you think's going to win?
I think Damian Priest is going to pin Seth.
To win the War Games?
I'm not sure. I think you're going to see Damian Priest pin Seth. It's either going to be to win the War Games. And if he pins Seth to win the War Games, then I think he is the Judgment Day are going to lose. If he doesn't cash in, I think Judgment Day are going to win.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm going to go with, just because it's a huge mega return. We're talking basically 2 years.
Yeah, that's right.
We're talking 2 years. Orton. I say Orton gets. There's two ways they can play it here.
I forgot.
This is Randy Orton we're talking. Orton could set up for Cody to get the big win and help out his bro, and then RKO him immediately afterwards, which is what I'm going with, because it's freaking Randy Orton, guys. He's not called the Viper for no reason. He's going to help his team get the win, but then he's going to turn on whoever afterwards. He's not walking out of Chicago as a face. There's no way. No way. Randy Orton is going to be a factor in the win with the babyfaces winning. Judgment Day needs a loss. They haven't had one in like eons that actually has mattered.
There's a leadership thing going on right now with Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest, right?
And Drew is loosely in the Judgment Day, even though he says he's not.
He's not. So my theory, part of the reason why I think you're going to see Judgment Day potentially lose is that Rhea could say, well, you didn't get the job done. And Damian then say, well, I did. I beat him at the end, right?
Yeah.
However, again, it's an interesting one for me, because
I don't know who takes the fall. but Judgment Day loses, and then I see a cash-in happening possibly after.
I think McDonough takes the fall because he's the one that I know least about. And then
I think
he is
that's
pretty much there
easy.
just to take a fall.
yeah, so
I think it's
the
too
reason,
easy.
see, I actually think that's why he takes the fall, because it's going to be a case of, like Matthew said, he's there to take a fall. He's the one I know least about, which means that as a casual fan, he's the one I care least about.
Right. I think that
Right.
you have to have Damian or Finn take the fall.
I disagree. I actually think it's either Damian or Drew. I think it's either Damian or Drew takes it. And so Drew McIntyre is my big wild card in this match.
Yeah, he is. He's really a wild card.
Drew McIntyre, and I will go on record and I will say that Drew McIntyre's heel turn is
so good.
Maybe the best story in wrestling happening right now.
Because it makes sense.
Yeah.
Week to week.
He's got the Lex Luthor logic. I love it.
There. It is incredible. This is like, it's not the flashiest storyline that's happening in wrestling.
It's good,
but
though.
it may be the best told story happening in wrestling.
I think
Drew
so.
McIntyre, and don't forget Drew's story in all this, right? Like, it's easy to focus on just Judgment Day, but there's a reason Drew is in this match. If Judgment Day wins this match, it's because Drew McIntyre gets the win.
Right. That's what I was going for.
That would be the only way Judgment Day wins this.
Agreed.
If they lose the match, I think Damian could lose it, and then he has to cash in Money in the Bank to prove his worth. Or Drew loses it and says, "You assholes, you told me that if I was with you, we'd win, and you let me down just like these people let me down.
Yeah,
so
agreed.
I don't need you." And it continues him, the paranoia and going off on his own, and it sort of separates him again from Judgment Day.
Both are very logical.
Either, and they both work, right? Like, both stories can work from that perspective. So Drew
Matthew,
is
where do you
actually
sit
the
on
reason
Randy
why
Orton,
I'm
though?
torn. But again, there you go. I think, I don't think you beat Orton. Like, Orton doesn't take a fall.
No
but
way.
Also, Orton, you want Orton versus Cody. So
exactly.
But you also are going to build Drew versus Cody coming up on the way to Roman. If you think that Cody's path to Roman doesn't go through Drew McIntyre, who says, "You golden boy, you golden boy, you think you're going to get to Roman before I do. You think you're better than me. You think you could blah, 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 blah." If you don't think they're starting to build a Cody versus Drew, because they're dropping the hints in Drew's promos about finishing the story, and he's making fun of it. So
and how
we got that match
Cody let
up.
it go and he didn't.
And I think, like, is it Randy versus Roman at Rumble? Like, do you go that route?
No, too soon.
But
you can't have Randy come back after 2 years and then lose.
But that's the thing. But I agree. I don't think you could sell the fans on Randy Orton being a heel this early.
You can, though, because it's Randy Orton.
Maybe, but the fans are still going to cheer him being Randy Orton, and we haven't had him for 18 months.
Especially if after the win, they raise Cody's hand. Cody gets the win. He's the golden boy, as you say. Boom,
he's the golden
RKO
boy
out of nowhere. Jay runs at him,
it could
ducks
happen.
him, RKO. Ducks him, RKO.
Except
all the faces RKO'd. And then you hear those chords in Chicago.
I mean, it could, though. It could be Randy. Randy could stun the entire team, right? He could RKO everybody.
Yeah,
and then
you hear
Damian
those
Priest
chords.
Capitalizes. Well, no. And then Damian Priest capitalizes and wins the title from Seth tonight after taking the fall. So, like, I could see it go that way.
But maybe you hear a bunch of RKOs and then you hear static and, a Chicago hero runs down.
I don't think you're going to see him.
Joe. I just don't think you have two giant returns on the same night. This is not AEW.
I know. I was going to say full gear AEW.
Yeah, I don't think
works.
You're going to see him anytime soon.
Stop it, Alex.
I don't know. Look, and let's be very clear. Everything with CM Punk is a work as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
I
they
have
saw
no
him,
idea.
right?
Like,
They saw
it
him
would
in
not.
whatever before SmackDown. I guess he was very close to the arena.
Look, also,
what it to me that would be like saying, "Holy shit, I
fucking with
saw Joe
fans.
Hash in Boston." Yeah,
Yeah,
because
that's
you
true.
live
That's
you
true.
live
That's
there.
true.
Like,
Yeah.
right? Like to me, like if he was in
Yeah.
California when
Okay, yeah,
there's a
I
show in
gotcha.
California, yeah, absolutely. But the dude lives in
Yeah.
Chicago.
Yeah, he's probably going to get food.
But again,
He's-
Alex, is this how they're throwing you off the scent of being like, well, of course he's in Chicago. He lives 10 minutes from the
Yeah.
arena.
I don't
So
know, and
why
that's just
wouldn't he be in
it,
Chicago?
it could very well be, but is it also
If you
CM
wanted
Punk?
to have a surprise, Triple H would be instructing all Bruce Pritchard and Triple H would be saying, do not let anybody know he's coming. Like, tell everybody he's not coming.
Mhm.
Kayfabe the boys. Don't let any of the boys know he's coming. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely. If you want absolute secrecy in this day and age, it takes complete deceit. So,
Yeah.
It does.
so
So,
it's
I just
with
like
that
it's
being,
very possible that's what they're
it,
doing.
so
oh,
with that being
everything's
said, oh,
possible.
sorry.
No, I'm saying
Go,
it's
Alex.
entirely possible that he actually is going to show up. I don't think it is, and I think
Okay.
it's more likely that you've got Phil Brooks saying, "I'm going to fuck with everyone," and making
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
he's seen out and
Very
about
much.
more than he
Very
normally would
much.
be,
Oh, that's total Punk.
right?
But-
Like that.
Punk might buy a ticket and be in the crowd tonight.
Oh,
Like,
that would be
that's
so
the kind of trolling I
amazing.
could see Punk doing.
Yeah,
But I'm gonna still go with Randy Orton turn.
So wait a minute, Joe. So who's winning tonight? Which team?
The faces.
You're going
Cody's.
Team Cody.
Team Cody for sure.
All right.
And Cody getting
So
the fall.
Alex, you have Team Cody, right?
yeah, I think I did.
Cody getting the fall.
Okay, so two people with Team Cody.
See, this is actually like, even as
So
a
torn.
beyond
So
casual
torn.
fan, like
I'm
I
so
can
excited.
I can make arguments either way for this, and I think that's
Oh, yeah,
what's so
but I'm so
exciting is that
excited.
I have no idea.
I
And
legitimately, I think Cody. I think it's Team Cody, and I do think Cody wins because
Yep.
it's Cody. Again, the biggest story that they're going to tell is Cody getting back to Roman at Mania,
Of course.
and Cody being the guy. And I don't think you have Cody losing his first War Games match. I do
Nope.
think you just keep building the Cody saga. Again, who's the main story and who is everybody else serving? On
Cody.
some level, it's still Cody's story for the whole year. And that includes tonight as we are recording. So I do think it's Team Cody, but I will say it's like, I'm like 51-49 Team Cody over Judgment Day.
Yeah, I got you. Randy helps Cody. Randy will be the last
I think
person
Randy
in
could help.
on their team. Because you got to
I think
protect him.
so.
He
Or
hasn't been
Randy
in
could
2
just
years.
totally. Or look, they could pull a swerve and Randy double crosses Cody on the way to the ring and never even gets into the game, into the match.
That could happen, but this isn't Swerve's house.
It
No,
could be.
I think-
I don't know.
I think Randy gets in the match, but he gets in last for everybody. And
Yeah, I agree. I think you save that pop. I
Yeah,
think Cody
and then
goes in first because his dad always went in first.
Right.
I think
And
Cody's
then-
going to go bell to bell.
Yeah, agreed. And then I think Randy's the deciding factor on Cody getting the win over. I'm still undecided who takes the fall. It's got to be Damian. It's got to be someone big, Damian or Drew. Like, I agree. Damian, Drew, or Finn are the only options for me. JD and Dom are not an option.
I don't think it's going to be Drew, because
I
like
don't think it's Drew.
like Matthew said, that
I
Drew
think
is
it's
the
Drew.
wild card, and if he's the one that's going to move away from Judgment Day because they couldn't help him get it done,
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense for me that he would take the fall.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be Damian taking the fall, and then I think he's going to try and cash in.
But it's all going to end
I
with
think
everyone
we're absolutely
hearing
gonna
voices.
see an attempted cash in.
Yeah.
It's going to all
Listen,
end with everyone
wouldn't
hearing
it be
voices.
amazing though? Wouldn't it be amazing though if Damian found a way to cash in before the match?
Oh, my God.
Be
What would that
wild.
do?
It would be
Well,
wild. I don't know. It would
if Damian-
totally upend everything.
Because what happens if Damian cashes in say if Seth is in the ring first with
Right?
Drew, could Damien cash
Exactly.
in on
Yes, he could.
Seth?
Yeah. He has
Sure.
to have the briefcase with him.
Anytime,
Yeah.
any place.
Yeah. So
Doesn't
then
matter.
you've got a 2-on-1 effectively because Drew's going to be there. It's in the middle of another match. What happens if Drew pins Seth?
I think it's a great question.
Oh shit!
No,
That's the
but
Brock
here's the thing.
Lesnar and
You
Seth question.
would actually make it a triple threat match.
Yeah, you would.
In that
Yeah.
case, and Drew could win it.
Yeah. Oh
what
my
a swerve
god.
that would be.
That would be amazing, Alex.
Like
I listen.
Seth losing
it
to
could
the
happen.
same way that he won.
yeah,
Great.
like
I think that this
he
is-
loses without an or if it's a triple threat match and Drew pins Damien for the belt.
Oh, even better.
So Seth doesn't actually
could happen.
lose. And then all of a
God.
sudden you've got Judgment Day effectively doing a 4-on-5 because
Yeah.
Drew's like, I'm not helping, or Drew's just going after Jay and doesn't give a shit about anyone else.
Oh man, no! Oh my
Let me
god!
be perfectly
Now
clear, gentlemen. All of our
Yeah.
speculation is just making me more excited for the match.
I'm so excited. I
'Cause
want
there are
Alex's
so many
prediction to
ways
happen now so bad.
this could go.
Yeah, I'll end up watching it eventually. It probably won't be tonight.
Okay, that's fine.
So
That's fine. We won't blow up the chat. I promise, Alex.
I'm
We'll be
sure
good.
that's fine. I can always mute you.
Matthew, we'll just chat one-on-one, you
Yeah.
and I, geeking out.
We'll chat one-on-one. It's fine.
I'm so excited. I am so excited.
So wait, where does the coin? Where's the coin?
Where's the coin sit?
Coin
And then we got to let Matthew go.
Yeah, coin said Cody.
So the coin is with us.
That is one smart coin.
All right. Well, we're gonna
All
find
right,
out,
gentlemen.
won't we?
This was awesome, and it's only going to be outdone by the actual product tonight, I think. And
Maybe. I hope. That
I mean, this isn't Vince McMahon booking. That's what makes me so excited. Is like, this is Triple H at the helm. This guy knows wrestling. And
pun intended.
yeah, Helm's like yeah, pun intended. No, wasn't. But this is Triple H, in the seat, in the big boy chair, and I have full faith in Triple H. I really do. I really, really fully do. And I think we're going to get a stellar main event in, show the matches in between. I mean, you might get one meh match, which will be Zoe and Rhea. But other than that, I think everything's just going to be great.
I think you're going to get meh matches in context of the rest of the show.
Yeah.
And this is a kind of show
Yes.
where if you're not a huge fan of hardcore wrestling
Correct.
or hardcore style wrestling, you're not going to enjoy this pay-per-view.
No, you won't. You won't. If you're not a WWE fan, you're not going to enjoy this pay-per-view because it's a very specific WWE style.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's heavy storytelling, heavy on the the exposition, and it's just, man, it's cinema. This is what it's supposed to be for me.
The story will be told. The story will be told in the matches themselves.
Agreed.
Like
Correct.
the Raws build the story being told at the PLEs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be a great one. I have no reason to think this is going to be anything less than a stellar time.
Same.
And with 5 matches, each match will get to breathe. Each match will get to tell the story. They have the time to tell that story.
Yeah. Agreed.
It's very exciting.
If I'm honest, I'm looking forward to Gunther Miz more than anything else.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to that. Believe me, that's my number 2.
It's going to be great.
Yeah. Right.
It's going to be amazing.
I'm gonna awkwardly close this out because I know you've got to run, Matthew, and we've already monopolized more of your morning than we arguably should have. So
we did.
Folks, if you listened to us last week, then you'll know where to find everyone. Matthew, I don't have your Twitter info on hand right away because I was in the middle of cloning something else, so I don't have the.
You can find me on Twix at Matthew Klein 316. I'm also on Blue Sky under that handle. And you can find me on Instagram at MacTheKnife1116, where I will definitely be posting even more glorious Thanksgiving food photos because I have so many.
Yes, I want to
come relive that wonderful, wonderful meal. It was extraordinary. So
alrighty.
I will be posting food and wrestling and comics photos for the rest of the weekend. Enjoy.
Sounds great.
All right.
Hey, thanks for watching the previous video from Graphic Policy Television. Just by watching, you help support our site. Thank you so much. Now, if you're watching these videos, you probably care about geeky things like movies, television, comic books, toys, games, video games, you name it. You can go and subscribe right now to our YouTube channel to stay in touch and catch all the new videos, or check out our website at graphicpolicy.com. There's a nice link on this end of the video. But as always, thank you for watching. Keep on rocking and keep it geeky.